Today we're going to answer the question, what's the best podcast app to buy advertising on? And I'm going to answer it in great detail. But before I do, I want you to know, I don't even recommend spending money on buying podcast ads. Like, marketing your podcast doesn't need to be expensive. You can do it. There's a lot of ways that you can do it for free. I've got this other video. There's a link to it up in the corner right now. It's called Podcast Promotion Strategies at Work. And it's like an hour long, and it tells you tons of opportunities you can do that are all free ways to market your show, right? I mean, we're talking about sharing it with your friends and family, what to do on social media, how to grow your social media, how to do promo swaps, the works. But if you insist on paying for ads, there are other ways you can do it, right? The number one thing you can do is pay to improve your show. You can pay for an editor, you pay for a sound designer, pay for a fact checker, pay for whatever. And I think you could also pay for like getting yourself better, right? I think all podcasts can improve by just being better storytellers. And so you can pay to take a storytelling class. So yeah, I mean, what can you do to improve your show? That's going to go a long way in marketing your show, because the more that someone likes your show, the more likely they are to tell someone else about it or stick around or whatever the case may be. You could pay for ads in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, whatever. I've done all this, but I've had like not so much good luck on it. It's kind of expensive. I can't really tell if I'm getting anyone there because it's a tricky process to see an ad and then go open your podcast app and then hit play or find it or whatever, right? It's just kind of disconnected. Influencer marketing is kind of cool. You can pay someone on Instagram, for example, to say, give me a shout out on my show. And then they'll say, okay, I've been listening to this podcast. I think it's really cool. And there's like a picture of them playing it or something, and then a link to you. So now you're getting new followers on Instagram. You're getting new listeners to your podcast. And whenever you have a bigger social media following, then you're going to be able to market your podcast a lot better. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. You could sponsor a conference or, buy a whole bunch of stickers and pass them out at a conference. You could put paid ads in other podcasts, right? So, people pay me to promote their podcast in my show. So I've actually paid for other podcasts as well. So I've said, hey, I want you to shout out my podcast in your podcast. Can you do that? And yeah, they have. So, you could buy ads in other podcasts. But this video is about paid ads and podcast players. And so there's 6 different podcast players that offer paid ads. And I wanted to go through each one of these, buy an ad in each one of them, see how it performed, which is the best one, and if it's even for you. So let's do it. The first one that I was able to get started with was Overcast. Overcast.fm/ads is the URL. You go there and you could start seeing all kinds of options, what the ad's going to look like, how much it costs. I wanted to get my show in the all category, but the all category was sold out. And so you could see how much it's going to perform in these different categories and stuff, and how much each category costs. Well, my show is a technology show, so I had to go down to the technology category, $550. They say I'm going to get 900 to 1,500 taps and 65 to 85 subscriptions for that. Okay, well, first thing they want to do is find your show. Then they say, okay, what's the description of your show? Now, it's important to have a good, 10-word description of your show that kind of explains your show very concisely and cleanly. And stick it in here. I mean, you can use this in a lot of different places on your website, when you're talking to people in the elevator, whatever the case may be. It's the byline of your show. And so, yeah, you should have that already figured out before you're getting here. But yeah, once you do all that, you can pay for it and away we go. So that one's kind of in the queue and will run whenever it's ready to run. The next one we have here is Castro. That's castro.fm/promote. And they have a few different options here. So they have a 7-day promo, a 15-day promo, and a 30-day promo. Different price points for each of these, different number of impressions, different number of taps, whatever. I want to purchase the 30-day promo, so I click purchase. It takes me to a form to fill out. I fill out the form. And then it says, okay, put in your iTunes podcast URL. I do that. Then it says put in the description or the title of your show. And it says it's optional, but I don't understand why it's optional. Because of course I want my title to be there. Why wouldn't it be? But also make sure to spell your name correctly when you're taking these things out, because they don't do fact. Here's the thing: is the description of your show is coming up again, right? So again, I have this 10-word description of my show that I think cleanly summarizes it, and I'm putting it again. So 30 days, $399. That's what I chose. I hit submit. It said, okay, we've emailed you with a billing statement. Go fill it out. So I said, okay, pay for the invoice. And so, yep, paid for that. And that was done and set. So next one is Pocket Casts. Pocketcast.com/paid-placements. And what they have is like a little ad in the app. And of course, when you click on any of these ads, it takes you right to the podcast. So it's really nice. And yeah, on this one, what they have is for $2,000, the only option they have, you get a 1-week placement as a sponsored podcast in the app, and you'll be on the Discovered tab for a week. So I said, okay, click buy. And as soon as you do, it takes you to an email. Like it starts telling you, okay, so I emailed them, say, I'd like to buy an ad on your app. And somebody writes back right away, yep, sure, no problem. Our next available dates are May 17th and 31st. Now, I emailed them on January 20th. So that was a 4-month lead time that they had on getting my promo in their app, which was crazy that it took that long. And it's only a week that I'm going to get it in there, and it's $2,000. So I said, okay, yeah, well, let's do it. I mean, that's the whole point of me being here, so let's go. So we went back and forth in emails. I had to sign a purchase agreement, and away we went. So then the next one was Podcast Addict. This is another podcast app, and inside there's 2 places that ads can be in there. They can be in the kind of the all main section, and that's going to show up at the top of the app, just kind of as a sponsored thing. And then there's another way where you can be in the different categories when people browse by category. So that's the 2 options they have. To get started, you put your feed URL in here. So this is your RSS feed specifically. So I grabbed that, copy, paste it in there, hit submit. Now when you do this, you start seeing options for what they have. Now that all mainstream option was sold out. I don't know how much opportunity you have to get that, but that's sold out. And so I had to get the category. And so my category is technology. I chose that for February. It says I'm going to get between 1,500 and 4,000 clicks and 25 to 70 subscribers. So then I said, okay, yeah, I mean, that's what we'll do. So $240 spent there. That's been billed. Then they give you a link, and that link is going to be like a performance link once the ad starts and once it's finished. So save that for later. Next is Spotify. Now, I don't even know why I added Spotify in this. I probably shouldn't have. But Spotify is an app, a podcast app. So I thought, okay, this is a video about podcast app performance. But this is totally a different beast compared to all the others. Like, this one is the most complicated to make an ad in, and it's not straightforward, and it doesn't have like all the things that the other ones can deliver. So for instance, in Spotify, it's a music playing app. And when you hear the ad, you hear an audio ad, right? So I've got to get behind a mic and make an audio ad, which you'll hear in a second. But it's also not really connected to the podcast portion of Spotify. So it's hard to promote like a podcast in Spotify. Like you could promote music and that's one thing, but so here's the things. It's like, what are you promoting, right? So it's not really a brand or a product. I'm promoting an artist that's on Spotify. I'm a podcaster on Spotify. I have a Spotify podcast, right? So I click that, then it says, all right, well, what's the name of the artist? Well, I write down my show, but it's just not there, right? So currently Spotify doesn't have a way for you to kind of say I'm promoting this other thing that's in Spotify, which is a podcast. They just don't have a way to promote podcasts in Spotify. So I was forced to say, all right, I'm promoting a brand or a product or an organization. And then it's like, okay, well, let's create a campaign for you. So you have to come up with a campaign name. And you write that down. And yeah, I mean, this just gets tricky and a little convoluted. So we've got to do a lot of steps here. Next thing, it's going to be like, all right, we're going to make an ad set. So we made a campaign. Now we need to make an ad set. We'd have to make it a name for our ad set. But there's a couple options here. You can do an audio ad or a video ad. I don't really have a video to show anyone, so I'm going to do an audio ad. And now it's like, okay, what's your schedule? Yeah, well, this is fine. Just do it whenever you guys can, right? So that was about like 2 weeks away. And then it was like, actually, it was more like this week that they were ready to do it. And then they're like, how much do you want to spend on this? And I'm like, what, $1,000? Is that the cheapest you go? But so I tried to enter in like $100, but they're like, no, you have to spend at least $250. All right, so expect to pay $250 when you come to Spotify. I chose $1,000. Now they're asking you, all right, well, who should we put this ad to? And this gets really interesting. This is where Spotify does have a lot of abilities to target ads, which is both creepy for the listener, but also really helpful for the marketer, right? So I can say, well, show me just the United States. And then they're like, well, what city in the United States? No, just show me the whole country. Send this to everyone. And then there's age and gender. And now look at this. It's like, well, what kind of hobbies or interests do you want to be targeting? What kind of people do you want to target? People who are running? And I'm like, I don't know how you know these things, but okay, I'll target people who like tech. And then they're like, okay, what context do you want to target? What context do you want your ads to show up in? Do you want it to show up when they're just chilling at home, when they're making dinner, eating dinner, when they're playing games, partying, traveling? I'm like, what? How do you know that when people are doing these things? So now on the right, we can see kind of what we're expecting here. About 1.5 cents per impression. And then they're expecting, yep, we can deliver this whole thing. Your budget makes sense to us. And then they're like, you're probably going to get 60 to 62,000 impressions from this. And I'm like, okay. So the next is like, all right, so if you're good with that, let's make the ad. So they're like, okay, what's the name of this ad? I'm like, geez, I already named this thing twice. Then they're like, okay, you're going to do an audio ad? I'm like, yeah. So now I got to sit down behind the mic, create my little audio spot. I made a 30-second audio spot. And then I had to upload this. And actually, I'll play that ad for you right here. So this is what I uploaded. Hey, I've got a podcast I want you to try. It's called Darknet Diaries, and it tells true stories from the dark side of the internet. Stories of hackers, hustlers, thieves, and often they come on the show themselves to tell their story firsthand. Check this out.
I accidentally robbed the wrong bank the last time I was in Beirut.
I wake up to loud banging on my door. Next thing I know, the door flings open. I see a shield and then guns pointed at my face.
You'll be blown away by these stories, but only if you listen to Darknet Diaries. Yeah, so how long is that going to take you, right? That's making that kind of ad might take you a while, and trying to figure out the best way to promote yourself. And that makes it more tricky and more hard. And then they're asking me what's the link you want to put in this ad? And I'm like, well, I guess if they're in Spotify, then they have Spotify. So I'll put my Spotify link, and hopefully that makes it a seamless process for them. I wasn't able to confirm if that is the case. Like it just goes to the app Spotify thing in the app. And then they're like, what's the tagline? But they wouldn't let me put more than 40 characters for my tagline. So I had to use an even shorter tagline than I had before. And yeah, I mean, like I said, this was a much more complicated process than all the others. And I had to actually add, creative content into this, which is much different than just here's a banner ad for your show. Okay, so that's Spotify. That's done. Somebody told me that Podcast Republic has ads. I couldn't find it on their website, so I emailed apps@podcastrepublic.net. Hey, do you offer paid promos in your podcast player? They wrote back right away, yeah, we sure do. We have a few options. You could be in the top 6 for $400 and for 1 month, or top 12 for $300. And I'm like, wait, what are we talking about here? So apparently in Podcast Republic, they have a featured list at the top of their app. And here's what it looks like on their website, right? So these are the featured apps. And I took this video after I bought the ad. So this is what it would look like after you get in the featured list. But this is like, there's 8 shows featured at the top of the website and in their app. And you would be in that top 6 or top 12. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. And he said, well, okay, well, listen, they're all taken. So I'll put you on the wait list. Now, I got added to the wait list on January 22nd. And so I waited, because that's what you do on a wait list. You wait, right? So January, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm going to make a YouTube video. Let's go. 3 months go by. And finally, they're like, okay, we got you here. We got a spot for April 12th, right? So he emailed me 3 months later. So I had to wait 3 months just to know I was getting in there. But yeah, we got in, and we're good to go. So these are the ads I purchased. Overcast, Castro, Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Podcast Republic. It was a lot of work just to get all these ads in and queued up. But yeah, we did it. And now through the magic of like editing and waiting And it really literally took me 4 or 5 months to make this video because I had to wait 4 months for the results to come in. But yep, through the magic of all that, and after paying $4,589, I'll show you the results. So the first one to finish up was Spotify, because Spotify was just ready to go. They've got tons of opportunities and so many listeners and stuff. They're just like, we can run this tonight if you want and be done with your $1,000. I'm like, well, no, take a week to do it. So they said, okay, we ran the ad and it hit 91,000 ears and got 625 clicks. And that's really the only thing they can give me. The clicks were to a link, and they really can't track what happened after they clicked the link, right? So hopefully it took them to the podcast, to Spotify, my Spotify podcast in Spotify, and didn't have them leave the app. But they really don't know how many, new subscribers I got, which is kind of frustrating, right? I hope this process becomes better for promoting podcasts on Spotify, but that's just what you get. Next thing to finish was Podcast Addict. They said I got 332,000 impressions, 934 clicks, and 68 subscriptions. And that's kind of, I don't know, like 900 people clicked, but only 68 subscribed. I paid $240 for that ad. And I got 68 subscribers for it. So the next one to finish up was Overcast. Overcast had a little dashboard to show me what their performance was. It's always nice to see these dashboards. $550 is what the ad cost. It ran on this date, and I got 160,000 views and 1,500 taps and 191 subscribers. Now, what's interesting is they said that I probably can get 60 to 80 new subscribers, but I got way more than that. So I overperformed. That's cool. I like that. Castro app, inside the app, this is what it looks like. My show was just kind of on the promoted section there. And after it was finished, they gave me a little dashboard to show me how it went. And 95,000 impressions, 102 subscribers. And that was a $400 paid ad. Okay, so 102 subscribers for that. That's what you get for Castro. Podcast Republic, like I said, you get in the top 6 for featured, and that's my show right there. So that's kind of how it looked. But they don't have any dashboard for when it's done and how it performed. So I had to look before I ran the show and after I ran the show for number of subscribers, which you can actually see on their website. And so when I subtract that, I've got 1,032 subs happened in the time when my show was being promoted there. Now, I can't tell if that's from the promotion or just organically, but that's what I got. Pocket Casts was another one here, and that shows up as a sponsored one in their app. And then I got 435,000 impressions for that, 6,000 taps, 1,400 plays, 1,132 subscriptions. Now, that's pretty cool. 1,000 subscribers, but don't forget, I had to pay $2,000 for this ad. So this was the highest paid ad. So I'm glad it was the highest performing ad that I had as well, right? So let's put all these numbers together and see what's the best place to buy ads. So the app is listed on the left. How much I spent, how many impressions it got, how many clicks it got, how many subscribers. Now, I think that's a very important number there because that's kind of what we're looking at is what's the results here. But then I tried to kind of interpret the results. So impressions per dollar. In Overcast, I paid, for every dollar I paid, I got 291 impressions. But then for every click, cost me 37 cents, basically, which is just kind of an interesting way to look at it. But then, yeah, the last column there. $2.88 for every subscriber I got in Overcast. I don't know how that feels to me. It seems expensive, right? So let's keep going. And the next one is $3.53 and $3.91 in Castro. It cost me $3.91 for every subscriber I got in Castro. That seems high, right? Like if I'm spending, if I've got a sponsor who's spending $20 per 1,000 downloads, that's 2 cents per download I'm getting, right? So 20 CPM means every download gets 2 cents. And so if I get a new subscriber, then that's 2 cents I got off them. not even close to the $4 that it cost me to get that subscriber. So I don't know if I like this number. I don't think I do. It seems too high for me. It seems ridiculously high. So the other two, Podcast Republic and Spotify, don't really have statistics that can help us that much. I mean, it says I got 1,000 subscribers in that time, but like I said, I don't know if that was organic or from the promotion. It's just not clear. And then in Spotify, there's just no way to determine how many subscribers you got from that. And I hope they change that over time, but for now, that's just what it is. I'm estimating I got somewhere between 50 and 100 subscribers, which means I paid $5 to $20 per subscriber in Spotify. So right now, Spotify seems to be the not the best. That's for sure. Maybe when they allow you to link podcasts, it'll be better. But for now, it just seems hard to tell. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about these numbers. Like it seems too high to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to make it back. Like I spent a lot of money to get a few hundred subscribers, right? And so I don't want you to take my word here. I want to ask some other people, right? So I called up my friend Jordan Harbinger, who I know also takes out a lot of ads on different podcast players. And I asked him, what does he think? Is this worth it?
I mean, honestly, $2 per sub is pretty good. I haven't found, if I could get $2 per sub and I could scale that up, that would be great. You know, the problem is with a lot of apps, you don't know if a sub is somebody who subscribes and then actually listens to the show or just somebody who saw a feature and clicked it and never listened to an episode of the show. If you can get somebody to listen to an episode of your show for $2, I'd say you're doing pretty well.
Who do you think this is for?
Yeah, so it's definitely not good if you have a hobby and you spend tens of thousands of dollars on it unless you are already nicely moneyed up from something else. So this is for professionals who are trying to grow and scale their show that get consistently good returns for their advertisers. So for someone like me, where I can calculate the annual value of a listener, I can sort of calculate, all right, if I get this many impressions, I'll get this many conversions, and this many people will listen for 90 days, let's say. Then I can calculate how much it costs me before I'm at break even for a listener. But if you're a hobbyist, you're not going to do that. You know, you're just going to go, all right, I'll share it online. I'll do some swaps with other shows. You know, I might buy a feature as a present to myself just to have something cool happen and get some rapid growth. But it doesn't mean it's sustainable, and it certainly isn't something that you can do consistently. You know, I'm in multiple apps every single time I can get a feature in there, paid or unpaid. And that adds up really fast. You know, I spend multiple six figures on advertising, not just in apps, but multiple six figures on advertising every single year.
Multiple six figures. So six figures is 100,000. So you're over 100,000 in advertising budget a year.
Per year, yeah. I mean, I think this year it's going to end up like around $500,000.
And does that come back for you? Because it just doesn't seem like it. Like yeah. So if your sponsors are paying, per 1,000 downloads, that's not $2 per download, right? So you're not like getting that money back.
You do if you get somebody who listens to the show and downloads, let's say for me, 144 episodes or something like that in a year, right? So if I can get somebody to download 100 episodes, they might share it. They might continue to support the sponsors. Yeah, I make the money back pretty quick. I mean, a listener of my show is worth something like around $20 a year.
That Jordan brings up a really good question. How much is a subscriber worth to you? Well, obviously, if you have no ads in your show, it's probably not worth any money, right? But let's say you're charging $20 CPM for ads in your show, which is kind of a low average. I started out charging like $10 or $15 CPM, and now I charge $35. So that's $20 per 1,000 downloads, right? So that's going to end up being 2 cents per download. Next, what we need to know is how many downloads each subscriber is kind of doing on average. And one way I figured that out is by going to castbox.fm, looking at my show, and then taking the number, it shows you the number of subscribers and number of plays. And that's just on Castbox. And so if I divide that, plays divided by subscribers, that ends up being 37, which tells me that the average subscriber on Castbox listens to 37 episodes of my show before moving on. Okay, so that kind of gives us some good numbers to go with. So then we can start charting this out, right? So if I know that, I'm charging $20 CPM and I have a subscriber and they listen to one episode and that episode had one ad and that's it, they stopped, then I would get 2 cents from that subscriber, right? So in that case, a new subscriber would only be worth 2 cents. But in my case, they listen to 30 something episodes. So let's go down. So we got 30. Then I have 2 ads per episode. So then I get about 1. So I guess that means that my listeners are worth $1.20 each to me. Interesting. That's interesting. But sometimes I put 3 ads in an episode, and sometimes I have, I charge more than $20 per, ad. So, these numbers can go up depending on where you are. And the other thing is, if that listener listens to 37 episodes, then they're probably really liking it, which means they're going to tell others, and they're going to tell their friends and their social media followers and their coworkers and whoever they can. And how much is that worth, right? So if one listener listens to 37 episodes and then gets 2 more listeners to listen to 37 episodes, now that person is 3 times, right? They're worth 3 times as much, right? They're not worth that $1.20 more. They're worth $3.60. So you can kind of calculate it in that way. And of course, if you have a business that you're promoting, you're getting money from that too. I wanted to get the opinion of one more person. This is Jeff Umbro, who runs the Podglomerate.
So the Podglomerate, we do all kinds of stuff. We produce, distribute, monetize, etc. And underneath the distribution umbrella, we do all kinds of things to help shows grow their audience, including publicity, marketing, cross-promotion, merchandising within the apps, and then paid opportunities. So under that umbrella of paid opportunities, we do a lot of work with all of the different podcasting apps. And we do, as you kind of insinuated, purchase advertising spots on each of these different platforms.
What are you guys seeing on your side as far as, are these ads worth it to you?
To me, yes, 100%. And I actually think that you are seeing a little bit of a less expensive cost per acquisition than most. And I think that has to do a lot with like how beloved your show is and how recognizable it is. And I think often you're probably finding people who may have seen the show in the past and just like, for whatever reason, didn't click on it. Honestly, from what I'm seeing, and a lot of this is with like branded podcasts and that kind of thing, we're seeing anywhere from like $4 to $10 cost per subscription. And truly, I think that is, if you're working with a certain kind of show, that's a really good deal. I will say, in my experience, that it is entirely dependent on the quality of the show.
So who would this be for? Because I just can't imagine like a hobby podcaster who has 50 subscribers saying, okay, I think I'm going to bite the bullet and buy $500 worth of ads. And then they see, 20 new subscribers or 50 new subscribers. And then they don't have ads in their show. It just doesn't make sense it doesn't make sense to me for someone to do that. So who should do this because it makes financial sense or even at all sense?
Well, I would actually say that it does make sense for a lot of people, even at those numbers. I think it really just depends on I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but it depends on your situation. For some people, $500 means a lot more than to others. And I think that there are quite a few people out there that will happily spend that kind of money to get their, 20, 50 or 100 subscribers.
So closing thoughts. Is this for me? No, I don't think so. I think it just costs too much per subscriber. Maybe I'm cheap, but I really like growing organically by word of mouth. I like making a bigger impact to my audience and having them, spread the word for me. I think that's just so much more effective. Word of mouth is more effective. So I don't think I'm going to do this. But you've got to ask yourself, if you're going to do this, is this really going to move the needle for you? I have a show that's like 200,000 subscribers. So getting an extra 2,000 subscribers, what did that? Increase it by 0.5%? That didn't have any noticeable effect for me. And so, that's where I'm like, I don't think it's going to do that. But maybe for someone else, 2,000 subscribers, that's a big deal. But are you going to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to get that many? Maybe not. So let's say you spend $500 and get another 100 subscribers. How is that going to change your show, right? So think about it. If you had an extra 100 subscribers, would you feel like you made it? Would that be wind on your back? Would that be, I mean, it's not going to make your show boom, right? You're not getting thousands. You're not making tons of money from it. It's just an extra 100 subscribers. So really, how does that change in the long run? I like the idea of growing every month, right? Grow by 1 to 5% every month. And so maybe this is let's just try growing this way this month, right? And so you can experiment. I love experimenting. So maybe give it a try just for that sake alone. But I should say that this is one of the most, if not the most convenient ways to market a podcast by spending money, right? So a lot of times when you're marketing something, you have to really craft the message and the artwork look in the Spotify. I had to sit down and behind the mic to make that audio spot for, that took me a while, right? But this was much more convenient. And sometimes you're paying for that convenience, right? I mean, you pay more at a convenience store versus a grocery store because it's easier to get. It's faster to get. You can get in and out faster, whatever the case may be, right? And the same thing here. When you're buying these ads, it's so easy that they're probably charging you a little bit more just because of how easy it is. So keep that in mind. But that's worth something in the end, right? It's worth your time. It's worth you don't need to know a ton about marketing to just fill out a form and say, this is my podcast name and this is the description of it. Like, that's it. Like, you're good to go. Like, you don't have to do much more. So that convenient factor is worth mentioning. But if you're doing this, you should also really scrutinize your artwork. Take a look at these two pieces of artwork, right? So these are two different podcasts, right? The one on the left, what does it tell us? Okay, well, there's a microphone, so somebody's talking into it. It might be a podcast, but it just says my 2 cents. Who's 2 cents? Everyone has 2 cents. Why do I care about this person? Then their name is listed there. If you don't know their name, then this is going to absolutely mean nothing to you. Somebody might read it just because it looks cool. It's got a cool purple graphic or something. I don't know. But how does that resonate with any of your target audience, right? Like, you want to get your 2 cents out there and you want other people to know it, but how does that affect everyone? Everyone who reads that not a single person is going to be like, oh yeah, that's a show for me. I've been waiting for someone to give me their 2 cents. I can't wait to get into this. There's just nothing there with that podcast on the left. Another one on the right is my show. It has intrigue. It has mystery, darkness. I mean, just that word alone, like, what's that about? Like, ooh, this spooky stuff. Like, what's going on the darknet? I don't know. I'm afraid to go. But this guy went there. He's got something. And then there's this flaming computer that's coming out of the sky. Like, whoa, this is really going to be bad, whatever it is. What the heck is happening here, right? And so there's this mystery. There's this intrigue. And I think this is why my ad performed better than what they expected my ad to perform. Because remember, I said that I was outperforming some of their expectations. And so I was trying to think, why is that? Well, I think I have this artwork that is grabbing people's attention. That's making them click like, wait, I have to know more about this, right? So you should really scrutinize your artwork to say, is this stopping people from scrolling? As they're scrolling by, seeing all the other podcasts in the world, this one is the one they stopped on to see about my 2 cents. Like, you got to really look at that, right? Oh, and besides that, it's also really important to have a great podcast. If you spend all this money to get new listeners and then they just listen to one episode and then never come back, it's wasted money. You really need to have a show that is sticky, and people listen to one episode and they're like, I'm going to do another. And they listen to another and then they're like, I can't wait for the third. And they listen to more and more and more, and they just get more into it and more into it. And they start telling others about it and they just can't wait to hear more. That's really where you need to be before you spend money like this on your show, because otherwise it's wasted. And it's really important to have a great show, because if not, it's never going to be big, no matter how much money you put into it. So it's important to make sure that your show is great. All right, so if you take out ads in any of these podcast players, let us know in the comments below, because I think a lot of other people are going to be curious how well these ads perform for other people too. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this valuable.